My marriage to Susan was built on her obsessive infatuation with me. At least that was how it looked to outsiders. But on our wedding night, she left me alone in the bridal suite and ran off to take care of her feverish intern. When she came back, her face was full of apology. "I'm sorry. He's all alone in a big city. He's really pitiful." I didn't say anything. I picked up my phone and sent a message to a contact saved as Iris. "Come keep me company. You know the address." When Susan saw it, she flew into a rage. "Who are you and why do you have my husband's phone number?" A voice message played from the phone, sweet and coquettish. "Hey sis. I'm the kept woman he's been raising for years." Chapter 1. Susan's apologetic expression froze instantly. She rushed over, snatched the phone away, and stared at the voice message on the screen. Her fingers turned white from gripping it too hard. "What is this? Who is this?" She held the phone up, her hands shaking. Gone was her usual calm, self-controlled, holier-than-thou saintly pose, the one where she was always so tolerant of me. I stood up from the sofa and unhurriedly poured myself a glass of red wine. This bottle had originally been prepared for our wedding night. "A friend," I replied calmly. "A friend? What kind of friend calls herself a kept woman?" Susan's voice suddenly sharpened. "You've been keeping another woman behind my back." Her eyes were full of disbelief. But that look wasn't the rage of a wife discovering an affair. It was the shock of someone realizing the pet she adored had suddenly bitten back. I gently swirled the wine in my glass. "Didn't you also go take care of your pitiful intern on our wedding night?" "That's different," Susan shot back without hesitation. "Marco is just a kid. He had a fever and was all alone in a big city with no one to rely on. I went to take care of him. We're completely innocent." "Oh, completely innocent." I nodded slowly. "So that means you could leave me alone in the bridal suite and spend the entire night taking care of another man?" Susan was left speechless. She took a deep breath, clearly trying to suppress her emotions, attempting to return to her usual tone of patient instruction. "Zachary, don't be unreasonable. I already explained it to you. Marco, the phone vibrated again. I took it back. It was a new message from Iris. "Hubby, I'm here. I'm at the door. Can you open it for me?" Susan's face turned deathly pale in an instant. "You let her come here? You dare let her come to our marital home?" Ignoring her shrill screams, I walked over and opened the door. Standing outside was a young woman in a well-tailored slip dress, long hair cascading over her shoulders, a sweet, cloying smile on her face. The moment she stepped inside, she ignored the rigidly frozen Susan and threw herself straight into my arms, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Hubby, I waited so long. You finally let me come here." Iris's voice was irresistibly seductive. She even deliberately tilted her head and looked provocatively at Susan. "Hey sis, you must be Susan, right? Hubby mentions you all the time." Susan's body began to tremble violently. "Get out. Get out right now." She pointed at Iris, then turned to me. "Zachary, make her leave. Have you lost your mind?" "Susan," I said coldly, gently stroking Iris's hair, "you should get one thing straight. Tonight it was you who abandoned your husband first and ran off to meet another man. I didn't meet him privately. Marco is a patient. Then Iris is a patient too." I lowered my head and kissed Iris on the forehead. "She's suffering from acute husband deprivation syndrome. It's especially severe tonight. She needs treatment. You're shameless." Iris giggled in my arms. "Hey sis, don't be mad. Didn't you go take care of that pitiful intern? Hubby was all alone too. Of course I had to come take care of him." She mimicked Susan's earlier tone perfectly, every word stabbing straight into Susan's nerves. With an arm around Iris's waist, I walked past Susan toward the master bedroom. "This house is big. There are plenty of guest rooms," I said, stopping at the bedroom door. "But I don't think you'd want to stay here tonight anyway." "Zachary!" Susan let out a hysterical scream. I closed the master bedroom door, shutting her fury outside. Soon Iris's deliberately exaggerated sultry moans echoed from inside. Outside the door came a moment of dead silence, followed by frantic pounding and finally the furious sound of high heels retreating down the hallway. Chapter 2. I woke up the next day feeling refreshed and clear-headed. Iris was still fast asleep. She really had taken good care of me last night. I got up, washed up, changed into a casual outfit, and didn't bother waking her. When I walked out of the bedroom, the living room was a complete mess. Susan had clearly vented her rage last night. Broken wine bottles were scattered across the floor and our wedding photo had been smashed to the ground. In the photo frame, she was holding my arm, smiling softly and gracefully. To outsiders, she always played the role of the perfect wife who was madly in love with me. Expressionless, I stepped over the shards of glass and brewed myself a cup of coffee. There were dozens of missed calls on my phone, all from Susan. I ignored them. Instead, it was my father-in-law's call that came through at that moment. "Zachary, you bastard. What did you do to Susan?" The moment I answered, his furious roar exploded through the phone, making my ears ring. "Dad, you'd better ask your precious daughter where she ran off to on her wedding night." "You." My father-in-law choked on his words for a moment. "Didn't she explain it to you already? That kid Marco had a high fever." Susan felt sorry for him. "You're already married. How can you as a husband be this petty?" "Dad." I took a sip of my coffee. "If I ran off tonight to take care of a female colleague with a high fever and didn't come home all night, would you still tell Susan to be magnanimous?" You're twisting things. How can men and women be the same? Susan loves you so much, and this is how you treat her. Don't forget, who gave you everything you have now?" I laughed. "Dad, aren't you mistaken about something? Everything I have I earned myself. As for that approval you helped me with back then, if I remember correctly, the consulting fee I paid you amounted to your total salary over 10 years, didn't it?" The line fell into sudden silence. Susan's father held a bit of power in the urban planning department. When I was starting my business, one of my projects required his help to secure qualifications. Susan was the one who took the initiative to approach me at that time. She probably thought I didn't know how much benefit her father had gained by abusing his position. She thought even less that I married her because I was obsessively in love with her. "Zachary, what do you mean by that? Are you threatening me?" My father-in-law's voice dropped. "I'm stating facts." I hung up the phone, not bothering to listen to any more of his nonsense. At some point, Iris had woken up. Barefoot, she walked out of the bedroom, loosely wrapped in my shirt, her long legs smooth and straight. She hugged me from behind, pressing her face against my back. "Hubby, is that sis never coming back? What? You want to be the lady of the house?" I turned around and pinched her chin. "I don't want that at all." Iris tilted her face up, a sharp, calculating glint in her eyes. "I just want to stay with you. You buy me a big house, buy me pretty bags. Being a wife is exhausting. Look at her, she even has to pretend to go take care of some intern. How fake." I laughed. That was what made Iris so appealing. She was clear-headed and never hid her desires. "Exactly." I patted her cheek. "Go get dressed. I'll take you out to buy gifts." "Thank you, hubby." She jumped up happily, kissed me on the cheek, and ran back into the bedroom. I glanced at the messages Susan had sent. She was still hurling abuse at me, calling me shameless, accusing me of betraying her, cursing me for being heartless and ungrateful. I casually set her to do not disturb. This little play needed a change in direction. Chapter 3. I spent the entire day shopping at the mall with Iris. She knew her limits well. Everything she picked was from the latest collections, but never exceeded the budget I had set for her. I bought her a watch and several handbags. That evening, I took her to the most expensive Japanese restaurant in the city. It was a place Susan had mentioned many times before, but I had never taken her there. She always acted frugal in front of me, saying places like this were a waste of money, yet she would turn around and use my money to buy a computer worth tens of thousands for that intern. Ironically, the moment I sat down, Susan's call came through. She was calling from a different number. "Zachary, where the hell are you? Why aren't you replying to my messages?" "Eating. With that bitch? You come back right now. We need to talk." Her voice grew sharp again. "I'm with Iris. I don't have time." "Zachary, don't forget your company's approval for next quarter still hasn't gone through. Do you believe I can have my dad? And what will your dad do?" I cut her off. "Come beg me in person right now." The line went quiet. "Susan, you don't seriously think your father's little bit of power can block me, do you?" I leisurely picked up a slice of sashimi. "I suggest you worry about your father's position first. I heard the disciplinary committee has recently been investigating projects related to urban development." "Why, you're talking nonsense." Susan's voice was clearly panicked now. "Whether I am or not, why don't you go home and ask him yourself?" I hung up directly. Iris looked at me with curiosity. "Hubby, you've even got her dad under control? Kids shouldn't ask so many questions." I placed a piece of fatty tuna into her bowl. "Just eat." Iris nodded obediently and didn't ask any more. After dinner, I took Iris back to another apartment under my name. This was Iris's real gilded cage. The moment she walked in, she spun around excitedly in the living room. "Wow, this place is way better than that marital home. And this river view, I love it so much, hubby." She pounced on me, rubbing against me like a kitten. Just as I picked her up ready to head into the bedroom, my assistant called. Boss, Miss Susan is making a scene downstairs at the company demanding to see you. Let her. But she says if you don't see her, she'll die right there. She also brought a lot of reporters. I frowned. So Susan wanted to play the public opinion card with me. She probably still thought I was the small company boss who needed her family's connections and cared deeply about my reputation. Got it. I set Iris down. Go take a shower first. I'll head out for a bit. Iris looked reluctant but still nodded obediently. Come back early. I drove to the company building. Sure enough, Susan was sitting on the steps outside dressed in a white dress wearing carefully done light makeup. She looked thin and fragile, pitiful enough to stir sympathy. A circle of reporters surrounded her, cameras and microphones pointed straight at her. The moment she saw my car, Susan stood up, her eyes instantly reddening. She rushed over and slapped my car window. Zachary, get out of the car. You heartless bastard. Why are you treating me like this? The reporters swarmed forward. I rolled down the window and looked at her coldly. Susan, are you done yet? You call this done? Zachary, you brought another woman home on our wedding night. Do you have any conscience? I treated you so well. I loved you so much. She cried beautifully, tearfully, accusing me of my crimes to the cameras. Look at him. Living off his wife and still cheating. Director Susan must have been blind. She loves him so much and he's still not satisfied. Men like this deserve to be exposed. Let him suffer social death. The murmurs around us grew louder and louder. I didn't get out of the car. I took out my phone and dialed the police. Hello, I'd like to report an incident. Someone is causing a disturbance at the entrance of my company, seriously affecting normal operations. Yes, and they're also maliciously defaming my personal reputation. Susan's sobbing stopped. She stared at me in disbelief. Why you're calling the police on me? What else would you expect? I put my phone away. Director Susan, you know the law too. Gathering a crowd to cause trouble and defame someone, how many days of detention do you think that gets? The reporters' flashes burned even brighter. They hadn't expected this reaction from me either. Susan's face flushed red, then pale. She probably thought I would care about marital sentiment and corporate image and that she had me cornered. Unfortunately for her, I don't care at all. Chapter 4. The police arrived quickly. Susan and the reporters were all taken away to give statements. As the victim, I went to the station as well. The officer who received me was a middle-aged policeman. He glanced at me, then at Susan, who was sobbing nonstop, with a classic peacemaker's expression. Your husband and wife. Couples fight, quarrel by the bed, make up at the foot of it. Why make such a fuss and bring it to the police station? Officer, I said calmly, she wasn't just arguing with me. She brought reporters to block the entrance of my company, publicly defamed me, and threatened my personal safety. Susan jerked her head up. When did I ever threaten you? You said if I didn't see you, you'd die downstairs at my company. That's not a threat? Susan's face flushed red. That was just something I said in anger. Oh. Something said in anger. I turned to the officer. Officer, if she had actually caused an incident in front of my company, who would be responsible? She gathered reporters and openly accused me of living off my wife and being unfaithful. My legal team has already collected evidence and is preparing to sue her for defamation. The middle-aged officer's expression grew serious. He looked at Susan. Miss Susan, your behavior was indeed excessive. Family disputes should be resolved privately. Gathering a crowd like this. He cheated first. Susan interrupted him emotionally. On our wedding night, he brought another woman home. I'm the victim. Susan. I looked at her coldly. Are you sure you want to discuss our wedding night here? I deliberately stressed the words wedding night. Why don't you tell everyone where you, the bride, went that night, who you ran off to take care of your pitiful intern? Susan's pupils shrank sharply. She hadn't expected me to bring this up at the police station. That was what? Taking care of a man with a high fever and taking care of him all night long? Ignoring your husband's calls the entire time? Several officers nearby who were taking statements paused, their faces lighting up with undisguised curiosity. You're slandering me. Susan panicked. Marco is my subordinate. Is he? I nodded and opened a folder on my phone. Perfect. I have some chat records between you and your subordinate here, along with a few photos. Would you like me to show them to everyone? These were things I had prepared long ago. The moment Susan saw the preview images on my screen, all the color drained from her face. Several photos showed her kissing Marco in a private KTV room. Others showed Marco wearing a bathrobe taking selfies in Susan's single apartment. You investigated me? Her voice trembled. I was getting to know my wife. I put the phone away. Officer, I believe this is no longer a simple family dispute. My wife committed infidelity during the marriage first, and now she's turned around to bite me back, attempting to destroy my reputation. I request that a case be formally filed. Susan completely lost her composure. She lunged toward me, trying to snatch my phone. Zachary, you can't do this to me. Delete those photos. The police stopped her. Miss Susan, please calm down. No, he can't. How can he treat me like this? I loved him so much. She began rambling incoherently, trying to salvage the situation with her well-rehearsed, obsessive love performance. I watched her coldly. Officer, I'm tired. My lawyer will handle the rest. Leaving those words behind, I turned and walked out of the police station. I knew it. Susan's act was finally over. Chapter 5. I had just gotten back into the car when my mother-in-law's call came through. Her voice was no longer as domineering as before. Instead, it carried a hint of ingratiation and urgency. Zachary, what on earth happened between you and Susan? Why was she taken away by the police? Hurry and go get her out. There's no grudge between husband and wife that lasts overnight. Mom, I said as I started the car, Susan cheated during the marriage and brought reporters to defame me. I don't want to see her right now. Cheated? That's impossible. Susan loves you so much. Is it that intern named Marco? Oh dear, Susan is just too soft-hearted. She can't stand seeing people suffer. That child is all alone in a big city, so I cut her off. Whether she's soft-hearted or not, I don't know. What I do know is that she used my money to buy that pitiful intern a car and a house. What? My mother-in-law's voice shot up instantly. The money I gave her for our marital home, she turned around and used it as a down payment for that man's apartment. The money I gave her to buy a car, she spent it on a vehicle for him instead. Oh right. She also embezzled funds from her own company, over $300,000. Said it was seed money for his startup. Heavy breathing came through the phone. Are all of these things true? I have the transfer records and that man's property ownership documents. Mom, what do you think will happen if Susan's company finds out she embezzled funds? She fell silent. Zachary, after a long while, she finally spoke with difficulty. For your parents' sake, give Susan another chance. She was just momentarily confused. Don't worry, we'll make her cut things off with that Marco immediately. Too late. I hung up. Susan and Marco's affair spread quickly within her company. Adultery during marriage. Embezzlement of company funds. Keeping an intern. Any one of those was enough to ruin her completely. She was fired almost immediately and ordered to repay the embezzled $300,000. Susan was utterly stunned. She came to block me outside my company again, this time without reporters. Just herself. The moment she saw me, she rushed over and grabbed my arm. Hubby, I was wrong. Please forgive me, okay? There's really nothing between Marco and me. He seduced me, it's all his fault. She shoved all responsibility away cleanly. I only love you. It was all my fault before. Susan. I shook off her hand in disgust. Haven't you had enough of this madly in love with me act? She froze. What do you mean? I knew you were putting on an act from the very beginning. I looked at her deathly pale face and said each word clearly. From the moment you pretended to casually ask about my assets and then took the initiative to pursue me, I knew. Susan staggered back 2 steps. You knew? Of course I knew. Did you really think I was some idiot completely bewitched by you? I let out a mocking laugh. I played along with you for so long because I wanted to see just how fake you could be. You used me and I used you. You used me as your loyal husband to satisfy your vanity. I used your father's connections to get the qualifications I wanted. It was nothing more than a fair transaction. No, that's not it. Susan shook her head desperately. Zachary, I really did love you. Love me? I stepped closer. Is running off on your wedding night to take care of another man loving me? Is using my money to keep another man loving me? Susan, you disgust me. Her last line of defense finally collapsed. She slumped to the ground, her eyes empty. Then why did you marry me? If you knew all along, because I squatted down, leaned close to her ear and spoke in a voice only the two of us could hear, lifting you up to the heavens, then pulling you down with my own hands. Is quite entertaining, isn't it? Chapter 6. Susan sat there on the ground completely dazed. She probably never imagined in her entire life that the obsessive love script she took such pride in had from beginning to end been a play I knowingly acted out with her. She thought she was the hunter, when in fact she was the prey. Why you're a devil, takes one to know one. I stood up and straightened my suit. Oh right. I almost forgot to tell you, your father has already been suspended and placed under investigation for accepting bribes. I imagine the transfer records of that consulting fee I paid him will be uncovered very soon. Susan snapped her head up, fear flooding her eyes. It was you. You did this. I reported a fact. I looked down at her coldly. Did you really think that all these years I was just playing along for fun? Susan's father was greedy and stupid. He thought I was just an impatient small-time entrepreneur. What he didn't know was that I had kept evidence of every single transaction he ever made. The reason I waited until now to act was so I could strike on the wedding night, at the very moment Susan felt most triumphant, and deal her the deadliest blow. Zachary, you'll die a horrible death. She screamed as she lunged at me. I sidestepped casually, letting her crash back onto the ground. Susan, what you should be worrying about now is yourself. Embezzling $300,000 plus your father's case, your whole family is finished. I didn't look at her again and turned to walk into the company building. A few days later, Marco contacted me on his own. That pitiful intern ran faster than anyone the moment he realized Susan had lost all power. President Zachary, his voice on the phone was dripping with flattery. Susan, she's a crazy woman. I have nothing to do with her. She's the one who kept harassing me. Oh, is that so? Really? President Zachary, I have lots of evidence. How she embezzled funds, how she went behind your back. Name your price. I cut him off. Marco paused, then gave a number. 500,000. Deal. I transferred the money to him. Send me everything you have. Then get out of this city. Thank you, President. Thank you so much. I received everything Marco sent, the explicit chat logs Susan had sent him and several intimate videos he had secretly recorded. That man was even more despicable than I had imagined. I anonymously packaged the materials. One copy went to Susan's lawyer. The other went to her company's disciplinary department. Susan was soon formally arrested for embezzlement. Marco, with that 500,000 in hand, probably planned to start a new life overseas. Unfortunately for him, I had no intention of letting him go. The moment he arrived at the airport, a few burly men politely invited him away. President Zachary, my assistant, called. The person has been secured. Do exactly as I instructed. I said coldly. Send him to a mining site in Southeast Asia. Let him experience firsthand what it really means to be alone in a big city, very pitiful. I hung up the phone and looked out the window. This farce was finally over. Chapter 7. The divorce proceedings between Susan and me were completed very quickly. Because the evidence of her crimes was irrefutable, she left with almost nothing. Her family collapsed as well. My father-in-law was sentenced to 10 years. My mother-in-law couldn't withstand the shock and suffered a stroke. She was hospitalized. After Susan was released, she came to see me once. She was so thin she was almost unrecognizable. All the arrogance and shrewdness she once had were gone, leaving only dead stillness in her eyes. Zachary, you won, she said. I never intended to lose. I don't understand. She looked at me. Since you never loved me, why did you play along with me for so long? Because I looked at her. I like watching my prey struggle. She let out a miserable laugh, turned around, and staggered away. I don't know where she went, and I don't want to know. I went back to Iris's apartment. She was wearing a face mask and doing yoga in the living room, her curves fully on display. When she saw me come back, she happily ran over. Husband, you're back. She tried to throw herself into my arms, but I raised my hand and stopped her. Go wash your face and change your clothes. Iris froze for a moment. The smile on her face stiffened. What's wrong? I don't like this smell. Her face went pale for a second, but she quickly adjusted herself, obediently saying oh, and ran into the bathroom. I sat down on the sofa and poured myself a glass of wine. Iris came out soon after. She had changed into a conservative silk nightgown, her face clean and bare. Husband. She carefully sat down beside me. Are you unhappy? No. I pulled her into my arms, my hand slipping under her nightgown. She nestled against me obediently, her body trembling slightly. Iris, how many years have you been with me? 3 years. Since my sophomore year in college. How have I treated you these 3 years? You've treated me very well, she said softly. You bought me a place, bought me bags, and even helped pay off my family's debts. Then how should you repay me? Iris looked up, a flash of panic passing through her eyes before it was quickly replaced by seductiveness. She leaned in to kiss me, her hands starting to wander. Husband, I want you. I pushed her away. I'm getting married next week. Iris's movements completely froze, all the color draining from her face. Am married? Yes. Then what about me? She asked, trembling. You? I smiled and pinched her chin. You'll still be my canary, of course. As long as you behave. Tears fell from Iris's eyes. I thought. You thought you could become my wife? I looked at her mockingly. Iris, you need to be clear about your own position. Someone as self-important as Susan couldn't outplay me. What makes you think you could? Iris raised her hand as if she wanted to hit me, but in the end that hand fell limply. She lowered her head, tears dropping one by one onto the back of my hand. Yes, I understand. That's more like it. I pulled her up and threw her onto the sofa. Tonight please me. She wiped away her tears and untied the sash of her nightgown. Chapter 8. My new wife was the daughter of a family friend from a long-standing alliance. Her name was Fiona. A very quiet, very intelligent woman. Our marriage was also a union of interests, and we both understood that perfectly well. The wedding was held on a grand scale. Fiona wore her wedding gown, holding my arm, a proper smile on her face. I knew she had her own intern as well. He was right there among the wedding guests. A young handsome man watching us with a complicated look in his eyes. I raised my glass and toasted him from afar. Fiona noticed my gesture and leaned toward me, asking softly, "You don't mind?" "What about you?" I asked in return. Fiona smiled. "We're husband and wife, aren't we?" "Yes. Husband and wife." We exchanged a glance and drank the ceremonial cross-cupped wine. After the wedding ended, I returned to Iris's apartment. She wasn't there. There was a note left on the table. "Zachary, I'm leaving. I don't want the apartment or the car. I don't want to be your canary anymore." I looked at the note a little surprised. I had thought she was a girl who only cared about material things. I hadn't expected her to have some backbone. I dialed my assistant. "Check where Iris went." "Boss, she bought a train ticket to a small city. She's already gone. Transfer the apartment under her name and the car as well. Also put $5 million into her account." The assistant paused. "Boss, this. She stayed with me for 3 years. This is what she deserves." "Understood." After hanging up, I sat alone in the empty apartment. I beat Susan. I beat Marco. I beat everyone. Yet I felt a little bored. This game had ended too quickly. I scrolled to Fiona's number. "On our wedding night, aren't you coming back?" She replied quickly. "I'm keeping a pitiful friend company. He needs me." I smiled. "Send me the address. I'm pitiful too. I need you." A new game had begun. Chapter 9. I drove to the address Fiona sent me. It was a private hospital. Her pitiful friend was lying in a hospital bed, his face pale. Fiona sat by the bed peeling an apple for him. When the man saw me, a flash of hostility crossed his eyes. "Fio, who is he?" "My husband," Fiona answered without looking up. The man suddenly sat up. "You're married? Why didn't you tell me?" "Why should I tell you?" Fiona shot back. I walked to the bedside, picked up an apple, and took a bite. "Hello, I'm Zachary." "Get out." The man pointed at me. "Fio is mine." Oh, I raised an eyebrow. "Yours?" "As far as I know, the hospital you're staying in belongs to my family. The medicine you're using was developed by my company. Believe it or not, with a single word from me, I can have you thrown out." The man's face turned the color of liver. "Fio, are you really going to let him humiliate me like this?" Fiona finally looked up at him calmly. "Claude, get this straight. He is my husband. And you are my friend." "Friend? We are nothing." Fiona stood up. "Zachary, let's go home." She looped her arm through mine without sparing Claude another glance. Behind us, Claude screamed hysterically, smashing everything on the bedside table. Once outside the hospital, Fiona released my arm. "Sorry you had to see that." "You're welcome." I looked at her. "Your taste isn't very good." Likewise, she shot back. "I heard your canary ran away too." I narrowed my eyes. This woman really was something. Looks like our married life is going to be interesting. I hope so. We got into the car and returned to our newlywed villa. As soon as we entered, Fiona kicked off her high heels. "I'm going to take a shower." "Together?" I raised an eyebrow. She glanced at me. "Are you sure?" "I'm not as obedient as Iris. And I'm not as devoted as Susan." She laughed and stepped forward, hooking her arms around my neck. "Then let's try." That night, neither of us mentioned our respective interns. We fulfilled our duties as husband and wife. Wild and completely absorbed. Chapter 10. Susan was ultimately sentenced to 3 years for embezzlement and defamation. In court, she never looked at me again. Her parents sold off all their assets just to barely pay off the enormous debts her father had accumulated. I heard that after her stroke, my former mother-in-law was left half paralyzed. Susan's mother worked odd jobs while taking care of her, living a miserable life. As for Marco, I never paid attention to him again. Maybe he's still digging coal at some mine somewhere. Maybe he's already died in a foreign land. None of that matters. Iris never came back, and I never went looking for her again. The $5 million along with the apartment and the car were what she deserved. My marriage with Fiona, on the other hand, was maintained in a state of mutual respect. By day we were the model couple everyone admired. By night we each lived our own lives. Her friend Claude, after recovering, still refused to give up and often came to harass her. And I too had selected a new canary. A female college student, younger and more beautiful than Iris. Fiona knew about it, but she never asked a single question. Until one day Claude barged into our home and pointed at Fiona, cursing her as a promiscuous woman. I happened to come back just then. Seeing me only made Claude more agitated. "Zachary, you cowardly turtle. You're really just letting your wife keep men outside." Fiona frowned. "Claude, get out of here." "I'm not leaving." "Theo, come with me. He can't give you happiness." I took off my coat and handed it to the servant beside me. "Claude, right?" I walked up to him. "Do you know why Fiona didn't choose you?" Claude froze. "Because you're too stupid." I punched him square in the face. He went down immediately. "You think you're her prince on a white horse? You're nothing more than a tool she used to resist her family's arranged marriage. Now that we're married, your usefulness is gone." Claude clutched his face and stared at Fiona in disbelief. There was no expression on Fiona's face. "Throw him out," I said to the security guards. "Theo, you, Claude." Fiona finally spoke. "I told you long ago, we were over. You insisted on humiliating yourself." Claude was dragged out. Fiona turned to me and straightened my tie. "Nice punch. Thanks for the compliment." I wrapped an arm around her waist. "Free tonight?" She stood on her tiptoes and whispered in my ear, "That depends on your performance."